In this video, I want to cover a new kind of configuration option that we've added with our ESS portal version 4.5, and it relates to when I have a list of either approvals or a list of tickets. There's kind of an expanded and collapsed kind of view. In the expanded view, there's a detailed section where in the past, the way this was kind of rendered was you had an option to kind of set this additional info kind of attribute, which was just HTML that would render and you could build in here. We've added a more robust feature in that you can actually embed your own kind of widget that you want to display for each of these list items. And so this is an example where the approval now has kind of a more approval detail. This is one we ship with our app. And you'll see different details for if this is a change, it'll show kind of change details. If it's a request, it'll show the request items, right? And if it's a request item, you'll see kind of the request input variables kind of listed here that you can open and collapse and see additional details. Now, how this works, let me kind of highlight this first of all by showing this particular card object record. So if we go to the approvals, you will now see there's a new attribute out here for X detail widget, which basically the way this is set up, if we were to go look at kind of the list template, open this quickly here, you will see what it'll do is it'll show the additional information, kind of HTML. If that's specified, it'll show that. Otherwise, it'll also do this, it'll kind of do this get card detail widget, and then if that exists, it'll show that kind of in place, right? And so what you'll kind of see in these attributes is the detail widget is going to get its kind of widget ID from a property. So we made it a little easy in this particular case. You can just say I want to either blank this out, this property, so not to show any kind of details there, or adjust that widget via a property. And then further, the additional information kind of section, which used to be formatted with a bunch of HTML, now will only kind of display that information if this property, this widget ID is equal to blank. So it kind of uses this more as a fallback. So just to kind of highlight, right, so if I go to that property, what this is set to is it's got a widget ID here, right, which if I were to look for widgets, this is basically what we are presenting in that body section, which has kind of highlight, as I mentioned before, has some code in here to handle, is this a change record, is this a request item record, is this a request, is this an announcement, show those different details, highlight whether this has been approved or rejected, is kind of hover those messages. Now let's kind of in this example, let's add a new one just so you can kind of see this in action. So let's take, for example, in my environment here, we've added a new kind of card object called changes, right, that kind of show for the user if the user is listed as the assigned to individual to change. This will show up in their My Tickets area. It really just has kind of a basic detail here that has the description and kind of the category, right? Now what I can do is I've gone out and I've created a new widget earlier today that's called this change detail widget. And let me go ahead and show you kind of what's in here just so you can kind of see the details of this. Now what gets passed in as far as a parameter goes to these widgets is you will get this kind of input.card, which basically is a JSON representation of that record or that card object that's displayed. So the main things you can do here is you can reference things like card.id, which is going to be the sys-ID of that record, right? And card.xname is the table name, right? So you see here in this case I'm actually getting that record, checking this is a valid change record, getting some change details, creating some of these kind of message bubbles for the created or the most recent updates. In the change details, I'm in essence going after getting the CMDB item, the start date, the end date, the kind of type of change record, and kind of building those into a list that are kind of coming into this additional informations list that also allows you to kind of open and close that section. So that's kind of the widget in essence. So what I can do to make this kind of live is I can go into my change request, and I've already kind of started this process a little bit. So I went out and created an attribute. Currently it's blank, but I can just kind of say let's set the answer to my widget ID that I want to render as the kind of widget for that detail. And now when I go and I refresh my change page, and we expand the detail section, you'll see now it's those bubbles again, but it's also got this change details kind of section that's open and collapsible that kind of pull in those details that we had. So that's in essence what I wanted to highlight as far as a ability to kind of define your own widgets for these detailed sections. Again, you can do this for incident records, you can do this for request records. If you expose some other card objects and you want a more specific kind of rendering of details inside that expanded section, you can do that here as well. Hope this is helpful, and thank you.